Hi guys, Kathleen Ferguson here, CEO and founder at Coach360. I recently had the opportunity to sit down with the incredible Michaela Brown, who I met initially at the DC Fly-In for Health and Fitness Association last May. Not only is she leading efforts for inclusion and diversity at urban adventures companies and now holds a seat at the Health and Fitness Association on their board, but she is also a mother and a general manager at Vita Fitness and Aura Spa. I'm excited to share our conversation here with you today and all of the inspiring things that she's doing to impact our industry in the most positive way. Let's dive in.
Hello, Michaela. How are you?
Friend, how are you?
Good. It is so good to see you.
You as well. That smile, you drew me in on the first meeting, and it's still there.
Yeah, I was so happy to meet you at the Health and Fitness Association fly-in in DC. And as I mentioned at the event, I felt compelled to get to know you better. And I'm so excited for you to be here today to share your story with the Coach 360 community.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much for asking.
Yeah, so let's dive right in. If you don't mind, share a little bit about your journey in the health, fitness, and wellness industry. You can share as little as much as you'd like, but would love to hear your professional and personal journey.
Yeah, so sports is an extension of fitness for me. It started at a very young age. It's actually the primary connection between my father and I. I'm his namesake, and I took after a lot of his love for athletics. My mom was a dancer. He was into sports. I got a scholarship to go to a private school in Connecticut, and that's where I learned the game of field hockey. And again, I start with my sports career as a youth because what I've really noticed in life in general is that we're kind of being set up for who we are or who we ultimately become. And if you seize those moments, and the sooner you can realize that you've already been set up for success, the quicker you'll get to that. And so I look at these very pivotal moments out on the tennis court, riding my bike, playing tennis with my dad, and then this pivotal moment where I got exposed to a sport that I had never heard of prior to high school, with a coach who took a chance on me. And despite having very little experience playing the sport, threw me out, put me on her varsity team as a starter, and told me to figure it out, similar to my dad.
Yes.
And that show of faith on her part, and her vision, I call her the field hockey whisperer. Her vision and foresight again fueled a passion, and that passion survived through college, where I went on to become the first African American woman to play field hockey at Georgetown at that university. So again, there's these pivotal moments. I go on, I walk on to the field hockey team there, I become the captain, and now I'm starting to get into some more organized fitness where we have athletic trainers and we have these programs that we need to follow year round in order to be a competitive team. And so it was just really woven into the fabric of who I was, such that my senior year, and field hockey is a fall sport. So your senior year, you're done after the fall. What I realized is that my eating habits continued, but my organized fitness habits had stopped. And so now, going into the spring of my senior year and directly after, I was starting to look and feel differently. And for me personally, it felt uncomfortable to be filling out clothes in a certain way. And at 21, 22 now, I'm a person who has had organized sports as a part of my life for years now. And so I didn't have the muscle memory of how to do those on my own.
Sure.
I always had people telling me what to do and how to get there. And so, because this was woven into the fabric of who I was at that point, when I sought out a second job or an experience, I sought it out at a gym. I wanted access to athletic fitness energies, but I didn't have the money to pay for a gym membership. And so again, I've always felt like my steps were guided, on a mission. I'm working at Georgetown as a program manager, but I'm on a mission to find a gym home. And I'm walking around downtown DC, and there's sort of a basement, but first floor type in a large Department of Education building, and I see this woman unpacking sports equipment, large, like Smith machine type equipment. Something blew me in there, and I go in and I talk to her. And this is a new gym chain. This female manager didn't have any staff at this point. She was doing the type A thing. She was in there by herself getting it done. And she and I connected off the energy, the go getter energy. I pretty much sold her on my athletic background and my go getter energy. And she hired me on the spot with no experience as sort of a fitness apprentice. And that, again, a pivotal moment where another person gave me just a chance and I had to run with it. And so what started out as sort of an internship or apprenticeship flourished into me getting certified as a personal trainer. Within 4 or 5 months, I started as a floor trainer, having to walk around the gym and engage people. And shortly after being immersed in that environment, I realized that this was something I could do really well and something that fed my energy and my soul. And so I always talk about one of my first clients. I did not know her fitness goals when I first started with her because I was a brand new trainer and I didn't necessarily know to ask some of the questions I know to ask now. But one of her goals before I knew it was to engage with her infant child with ease. She had just had a baby. She had gained a lot of weight and she could not enjoy what many probably consider the simplicities of motherhood.
Sure.
Lifting up your child, meeting eye to eye, giggling, laughing without back pain. She could not climb stairs without getting out of breath. She could not bend over and play. And so these things that many moms probably take for granted because of her body composition, she could not do that. So that was her goal. About 2 months into working with her, midway through the session, she starts to tear up and cry. And I'm like, what happened? And she shares with me that the day prior, for the first time, she was able to pick up her infant child without pain. And it was the most life-changing, euphoric experience that she had as a mother. And right then and there, I was like, well, that settles it. This is what I want to do. And I realized instantly that this was a life-changing business and it was right up my alley, and that I took an immense amount of joy in helping people live life to the fullest extent, as much as I could. And so this started out as a second job being a trainer. And I started to do some creative things in the industry, such as develop unique programs that, infuse my dance background. Started to venture more into group exercise instruction, which is more my speed, right? My speed is being amongst the people. And remember, I wanted to work out myself. So as you grow as a personal trainer, your focus starts to venture further from you and further towards other people. And so group exercise was my jam because I'm like, wait a minute, I get to work out and teach others and get paid for it. This was everything for me. And so I started to venture that way, develop hip hop dance programs and little creative takes on fitness that started to give me a niche. And so about 2.5, 3 years into working at the gym, I realized that I had something unique and special. I had a growing following and that I wanted to test the market with as a business owner. And so I got some tips from the CEO of a small cybersecurity company in Virginia. My boss gave me 2 or 3 really key tips. His tips were, go get your LLC in Delaware because they have employer friendly laws. And he gave me the laptop that was supposed to be my work laptop. He gave me that laptop to keep as my first business computer, and he gave me a $10,000 severance package that I really hadn't earned at that point because I only was with him for 1.5 years. And so this was like the start of my business. Again, another person who didn't have to nurturing the energy and the spirit. and really pushing me along. And so I did all the back end work and decided to invest in a property that I could use as a home and as a fitness studio. And this was back when fitness studios weren't the biggest thing. It was big
Sure.
gyms. And so offered pretty, again, niche fitness programs for women. And it started to develop, right? One client at a time. I was focused on delivering an unmatched service such that any person who took class with me would leave and go tell a friend so vehemently that the friend had to come. And so that happened over the course of 12 years, and my business, mostly through word of mouth. Later, there was bigger media, but all the media came from word of mouth. After 12 years, we would call my brand was Exotaerobics, and it was sexy fitness for women. And it was a safe place for anyone from college students at Howard to political pundits in the White House to come and for that one time, maybe all day, all week, all month, let your hair down and just be a woman and work out and all those things that meant to that person, right? Get out of the suits, get out of the books, and let's just join as women and have fun. And if that, included a little sex appeal, that was okay too. And if not, that was okay too. And I realized that this was something that our city needed. DC needed it. And it was the first of its kind in DC. And it was, again, it fed my soul in so many ways. I employed women, I taught women, I gave women an outlet, and it was something that I still am very proud of. And actually, every week I still run into people that are like, you know what, that was the best time of my life. So that sort of happened. But what I realized in 2017, when I decided to close my business, was that one of the things I didn't do well as a business owner was replicate myself. And so the business flowed solely through me, such that when I was ready to settle down and really be home with my children, when they were 1 and 2, and I wanted to be a part of that experience, I had not taught others well enough for me to trust that they could carry it on and for them to actually carry it on. And so I got married, I bought houses, I added on so many layers to my life, but I had not positioned myself to release any of it when I needed to. And so when the decision came to not miss out on moments with my oldest son and then my 2 young children, I wanted to be home. I wanted to hear the first words and see the first steps and do all of that, go to the park and the library in the middle of the day. I made the tough but not so tough decision to shut down my business and be home, and whatever that meant. And so that lasted all about 1.5 years because, I'm a busybody.
Right.
And once my children in DC, they go to school at 3, preschool 3. And so once my children were in all day school, I started to get that feeling again of wanting to be in the gym. That's something that has never left me. Wanting to be around similar energies, sweating energies, go-getting energies. I went back to my original gym just as a client at first or a member. And then I started to get back into teaching a few classes here and there. And that muscle memory came right back. When I came back to the gym, I got back to functional training, HIIT style classes, resistance style classes, Pilates, those type of things. Vita Fitness was a newer gym. It was less than 10 years old at this point, and it was known in my area as the hot place. That was the place you wanted to be. It was aesthetically beautiful. A couple of the locations had rooftop pools, and it was the glamorous life. And I was like, yep, that's my type of spot. And so I saw some postings for group exercise instructors here and there, and I was just looking to get one class or the bare minimum to get free gym membership. And my resume was intercepted by a couple managers. And when I came in for an interview and an audition, they were like, so tell me why you're just trying to teach a class and not interested in a management position. I'm like, I don't want any commitment. I don't want to do, I just want to be me. And the reason I laugh at that is because what I've realized in life is you can't escape who you are. You can't escape who you are, right? My resume got intercepted. one thing led to another, and I accepted a position as the group fitness manager of their smallest location. And still in my head, I'm thinking, not too bad, right? This is low key. I'm gonna go sit in my back little corner desk. I'm gonna live life. I'm gonna teach 12 classes a week. I'm gonna get my body back in shape, and I'm gonna get paid a little extra to do it. And again, you can only be who you are. And that was in year one. By year 6, I'm now the general manager at the most profitable location, running a 22,000 square foot gym in the middle of DC, over 3,200 members, over 100 employees and staff, and the chairwoman of the company's first and only diversity and inclusion board. The moral of the story, and there's a couple, is that number one, you are who you are. And the more you try to run, the more it finds you. But there were these really key, pivotal people and times along the way that were planting these really, really fertile seeds. And when you get to that point where you're like, aha, yes, not only do I think I could make a living off this, but I actually love it. That's when you hit the pinnacle.
Wow. Well, that is an amazing story. And it sounds like your career and your professional journey has taken all sorts of different twists and turns to get you to where you are today. Talk to me a little bit about some of the challenges that you've encountered, either professionally or personally along the way. We all have them, right?
Yeah. They look different the more seasoned I think you are in the
Sure.
industry. I think in the beginning, sometimes there are limited resources, or you feel like there are limited options for you to learn. So for me, when I came in to the industry, there were a lot of women trainers and even trainers of color. But I didn't really see a lot of decision makers of color and a lot of decision
Right.
makers that were women. And it's not nuanced to accept that the journey of a woman in the fitness industry is very unique. Several layers of uniqueness, right? The layer of a person of color in an industry that is led by, mostly middle-aged to older white men. It's unique. It's not always bad. It's not always good. It's
Sure.
not always right or wrong. It's just different. And so when you have limited access to those kind of conversations and that kind of experience, it can be a challenge for
Hmm.
some people. Now, I was born with the gift of blinders, and I think I was at my 25th high school reunion this past weekend, and it was a very similar situation. It was a small school in Connecticut, Pomfret School, and at the time we had 300 high schoolers total, and I was one of 6 people of color in my class of 89, and a slightly bigger handful of schools, school wide, right? And there are a lot of things that happen when you put 14 to 18-year-olds in an enclosed private boarding school situation, and you're of a very small minority. But the blinders that I've always been blessed with is I kind of have tunnel vision about the things that matter to me. And though there were always microaggressions and countless questions, bothersome questions
Sure.
about hair and background and city life, it was all fun and games to me because it was such an incredible experience that I wasn't going to let anybody steal that from me. And it's the same story in the fitness industry. Remember, I was excited to be a part of this industry. It was something that not only fed the people who I engaged with, it fed my soul. So, though there were challenges wrapped up in that, I had tunnel vision about what it meant and what it was for me, such that those challenges were never going to deter me from the experience that I sought from being here and
Sure.
being present. For the first 5 years of my business, I was the secretary, I was the lead instructor, I was the web designer. I designed my whole website by hand, went online, had to be a jack of all trades.
Yep.
I was my own photographer, I was my own media consultant, I was all the things.
Al and I were just joking about this actually.
And you have to be. I always
I'm
said
the
a business
janitor, I'm the
owner,
cook, I'm the
all of
marketing
that.
director, I'm the CEO.
I'm the CFO. I have to know about my balance sheet and how
Yes.
much revenue I'm pulling in and how much I can't spend in order to turn a profit or just to pay the bills.
Right.
So you have to be all those things. And so the sooner leaders, business owners can understand the value of trust and replication, the quicker they can get to that success point or those success points, because no one's ever going to love your business the way you love it. That's just take that for granted, right?
Yes.
But you can hire, train, and nurture other leaders and energies such that you can take certain things off your plate, and also in doing so liberate yourself, so that when life happens or when your priorities change, that your dream, your vision doesn't have to fall to the wayside with it. I always say my first job, my primary job is that of mother.
Yes.
Mother. I always found the fitness industry very, very conducive to my desire to be an involved mom, because as a personal trainer, I could set my own schedule. Now as a general manager, my gym is open 18 hours a day, Monday through Friday, 14 on the weekend. I'm not expected to be here all 18 or 14 of those hours. So even within that, I have some flexibility to go see a wrestling match, go see a cross country race, and then come back. So I've always found that the fitness industry was one of the more understanding industries about that. We met at an URSA event. I commonly walk into those big auditoriums and rooms, and I can count on one hand how many Black women are represented in those rooms. I take a lot of pride in that, but there's also a lot of dismay in that, right?
Right.
I'm in those rooms, so that's a victory. As far as women are concerned as well, there's a slightly larger group of women, but then those numbers really, really decrease when you talk about people of color, and then specifically Black women, right? And so I'm in the room and I'm welcomed, and I constantly feel heard and valued. And so that is a win. But it's really a win when I can't count how many is in it.
Right.
It's so many I can't count. And so the goal is to really encompass that diversity, and inclusion, something different, right? Inclusion is not only opening the door for more people that look like me to be there, but it's also creating a space for people like me to want to come, both ends of that. And so that is a challenge that we face and we continue to face. I'm very, very optimistic because of the reception that I've received. And anyone who knows me in this industry knows I do not mince words.
I'm with
I
you.
talk straight. I'm sympathetic and empathetic to all backgrounds, upbringings, and I have the emotional intelligence to have any conversation anybody wants to have. But I do not package these really important topics into these sort of like watered down discussions. I have real discussions, and the reality of the fact is there are not enough people that look like you or me in these rooms. And what's the business case for that, right? It's more than the cultural gratitude of it. That's important to make sure that there is a spectrum of colors, genders, sexual, all of that fuzzy stuff. And I'm using fuzzy with italics that make me feel good, right? The business case for it is heightened innovation, right? And that it has nothing to do with colors, everything about background, right? Heightened innovation when you have people from different backgrounds, different perspectives, different interpretations, different approaches, all of that in a room, contributing to an idea that can make your company great. You're going to get more deeper, more thoughtful results and output when you have that type of background diversity in a room versus a homogenous group who all come from the same socioeconomic background, same, all of that. So that's a fact. Okay. So heighten innovation. You're going to heighten your sense of belonging for people who choose to work for you. You're going to increase retention. You're going to decrease attrition. Why? Because in general, we know this in the fitness industry. People pay us to torment them. Right? Why?
True.
They have a human connection. They feel accepted. They feel heard. They feel valued. They feel like their needs are respected. They feel like this is a place that accepts the whole person. And that does not stop with the client and personal trainer or operator relationship. That very much is what's happening within your workforce. And growing from the diverse backgrounds that could be sitting in a room at a given time, we have blind spots. We say things, we do things that can be discriminatory because we just don't know. We just don't know you're not supposed to say that. Right? You're not supposed to tell a woman who is speaking vehemently and passionately about something that she's being aggressive, or is it that time of the month? You're not supposed to say that,
Right.
right?
Yet it's said all
You
the
don't
time.
know those. It's said all the
All
time,
the time.
right? Unless you're actively engaging with people of these diverse
Mhm.
backgrounds, you're not putting yourself in a position to understand sensitivities, cultural
Yes.
sensitivities, and things like that. And so those you can quantify. When you miss it, that lands $1 million lawsuits on your table. More inclusive environments breed more discussion, more collaboration, more cohesion, less divisiveness, less ill will, less defensiveness. And so that's why I'm really hopeful for our industry, because we get that in other terms.
Yeah, I think it's time for people to stop calling opinionated women bossy and start calling them leaders. That's what it's time for. You touched on something earlier that I didn't want to forget about. You talked about bringing in coaches that you could trust and helping to mentor and guide them to become leaders so that you could trust them in your business and the managing of the day-to-day responsibilities to keep the engine running. Talk to us a little bit about what you would look for in a coach when you're hiring that could potentially go from coach to a management position.
This lesson from my direct report here, Aaron, and it starts with the opening and increasing your candidate pool, casting a really wide net, because again, there are skill sets and backgrounds that you don't even know you need until they're in front of you, until they have an opportunity to present themselves to you. Making sure you've exhausted all means to diversify up and give yourself the best opportunity at the best candidates, if that's the goal. And you have to be earnest about that, because for some people, it's not the goal. Some people, the goal is to fill that warm seat. So put the work in on the front end, pass the wide net, and really yourself determine what are the non-negotiables as you see it for leaders in your company, leaders in your orbit. For me, it's, do you have to be micromanaged, or do you like to operate on your own? Like, do I
Yes.
have to remind you every day of the same thing? Or once I teach you, can you just go? Are you self-sufficient? Are you an inclusive leader? Whether you have the title or not, do you have a vested interest in listening to others, to connecting with others, right? Because
Yep.
as every leader has to be able to connect. Do you understand work-life balance? Do you understand it? Do you value it? Okay. Do you own the job you do as yours? Do you take pride in it? I have the best maintenance and housekeeping crew in my company. My housekeepers love to clean. They are the best, and I pay them to be the best. I don't minimize them because they are operating at a high level no matter what the task is.
Yes.
I'll give you an example. We sit DI, Diversity and Inclusion Board members, on every hiring panel for managerial candidates. And instead of asking them now, can you define diversity for us? What I ask them is, when have you ever furthered or benefited from diverse workplaces? And I listen to the story they tell me. And I listen to if their energy rises or it falls, and how they talk about diversity. And now I'm starting to better gauge if they're hardwired to follow the initiatives that heighten diversity or not. What does diversity look like on a team that you would build? Right.
Sure.
And I can tell from those kind of answers, if they, number one, if they know the definition, but what type of leadership roles they would take in that. Like, I'll do it because you asked me. But as soon as someone asks me to do something else, I'm doing something else. Leaders on my team, no, they're hardwired for it. So whether you're asking them or not, Whether they think it's appropriate or not, they're doing it.
Right.
Right. And so that's a big thing for me. Hardwired to do the things that you have deduced are super important. And then once you get them into their roles, train them for the next job and the next job after that. Spend the time on the front end. Expose them to things. Show them the P&L. Everyone on my staff does a P&L review with me every month. I want them to understand how their small little role as they see it, I know it's big, how their small contribution affects the value of this gym, the stability of this gym, right? I want my trainers to know that you picking up a towel off the floor, even though it's not your job, can make the difference between the next prospective member
Right.
joining or not. Yeah, all of those things. And so you train them, you expose them, and then you give them tasks. And through that on the job training, you'll start to see if they pitched you a dream when you thought they were hardwired for something, or if they really are hardwired for it. And you continue to nurture those behaviors and stay flexible, right? You have to connect and invest in people. You have to be a servant leader. That's my big thing. And maybe this happens after a certain age. I felt like in the beginning of my career, I was self-ambitious. I wanted to do things, and by golly, I wasn't stopping until I did. After being a business owner, after certainly becoming a mom,
Yes.
after being a general manager, I find an immense amount of joy in developing the next generations of leaders. I'm a servant leader. I judge my own success based off the development and the success of the people who I've developed and nurtured. And it's happened on our diversity and inclusion board. It's happening in my organization now. And so a win for them is a win for me. So if my assistant general manager lands his dream job and is the perfect candidate for that because he spent the last 2 years here, that win for him is a win for me. He's always going to remember that situation. He's always going to remember how his direct report set him up for success. I think is innate in fitness individuals, right? Like we train people and try to empower them to learn exercises, to have endurance so that they could actually do it on their own. And at a certain point, they just choose to pay us. They don't need us. Like if you're a successful personal trainer and group exercise instructor, they could do it on their own. After a certain amount of time of you repeating the same cues and the same technical points, they should be able to do it on their own. But the missing piece is you.
Well, you are moving mountains with a lot of the initiatives. So I have to ask you, if you had to name one Michaela superpower, what would that superpower be?
Superpower.
Here,
I would say that's a hard
I told you I was
question.
throwing you softballs, and that was my secret closer question for you, Michaela.
I would say resilience is a superpower. Resilience, right? It wraps in some of those things I spoke about earlier about facing challenges, most of them out of your control, some of them of your making. And even in the face of those challenges and those setbacks, uh, steering forward and staying on task. And even now, as a general manager, there are daily triggers and daily challenges, things that forces that are trying to pull you out of focus. And so you have to be steady and resilient in order to complete the task. And so I think that, and some of it is stubbornness, some of it is a don't quit attitude. You mentioned one earlier. My ability to articulate my passions and bring other people along is definitely a superpower, because no matter how on point and right I might think I am, it has to land on other people. And so I've developed the skill of communication and being able to articulate with passion, such as to bring other people along. And that has definitely been key. So, two.
Well, I heard you list off a few others. Those resilience, I'm smiling when you say resilience because Al and I just had a long conversation about resilience. Al, what was the name of the Roger Federer was the person that was talking about resilience, and it didn't matter how many times you failed. It was about how you came back and how you attacked the next challenge, that really made the difference. So thank you for sharing that superpower with us. And thank you for sharing all of your incredible insight and wisdom. You are just an incredibly inspiring woman, and we're appreciative of you sharing everything today on Coach 360. Thank you so much, Michaela.
Thank you. It's like I said, an honor to be here. Thank you. Thank you for the conversation and for the platform. And my goal is for it to resonate with at least one person. We've done our job today if we can get that.
Oh, it will. It will. Thank you so much.